Candidates tonight, 2 out of the 3 announced candidates. Retired Commander Bob Lindsay is here tonight, and Lieutenant Alex Villanueva, who is currently serving on the department right now.
Hello, everybody out there. How are you tonight? First of all, congratulations to our upcoming retiree. That's you. Congratulations. Aaron, I just wanted to say to you congratulations also on the upcoming baby. I have 3 kids, and you're going to go on a wild toad ride, I can tell you that much. Yeah, so good luck with that, but I know you're going to be a great dad, and I'll tell you why. For all of you who are here tonight, I believe like 1,500 flyers were passed out. It came out in the Argonaut, and look at the crowd here tonight. You're dedicated. And I'll tell you what, there's too much apathy out there right now, and for you to be here tonight, one, congratulations to you. I appreciate that from the bottom of my heart because it gives us a forum at least to tell you how we feel. I'm not going to go into a long history because I only have 5 minutes. I could talk for about an hour about my history. But I will tell you I grew up in the San Gabriel Valley. I was born here at Queen of Angels Hospital, so I've lived in the LA area for my entire life. I worked for the Sheriff's Department for 32 and a half years. 25 assignments ranging from 5 patrol stations, 4 custody facilities, doing surveillance, working the academy and the recruit side, and working advanced officer training. I formed actually the field training officer unit, which was responsible for all of the training out in the field and teaching the curriculum in those areas. I got, how should I say this? I got transferred against my will because I was having so much fun training outside, but they moved me into personnel. And I was the first captain of personnel in the history of the department. I worked there for 5 years, and my charge there was to hire and recruit, do the backgrounds. I was familiar with that position because as a sergeant, I had also done the backgrounds. You know, I'm sure Alex and myself will get into the state of what's going on with the department and how that has become a crisis on the department. But moving on just a little bit, so in the department, as I progressed through it, I also then got promoted 6 times. So I promoted from deputy sheriff all the way up to the rank of commander. At the end of my career, as I was having fun still, I got recruited by the state. And the state asked me to come over to the state side to actually oversee the sheriff's contract. So in 2011, I left the service of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department to go to the Los Angeles County Superior Courts. And there I have worked for the last almost 7 years. So in total I have about 39 years of law enforcement experience, all of it technically with the Sheriff's Department. So with that, I decided as I was working at the Superior Court that I would take a look at the Sheriff's Department once Mr. McDonnell came in. And I have to tell you, I voted for him. I don't know how many of you out there voted for him, but at the time, he was our best choice. He came in as a reformer. That was what he was supposed to do. But I can tell you, having a son on the department, a nephew on the department, a brother on the department, and knowing thousands of deputies, that that's not what's being done. And I think as tonight, as Alex and myself go through the series of crises that are happening on the department, the things that we will tell you, which by the way, most people don't know. And because they're not here, they may never know unless you get out there and tell them what the state of the department is. Because the inside of the department, the guts of the department, the heart of the department is dying. You will hear a lot of things about what's causing crime to go up. You'll hear a lot of speculation. But I can tell you exactly why it's going up. And as we go through tonight, we'll explain that. And in addition to that, you're going to hear what we need to do to fix it. Because there are fixes, and it doesn't take 10 years to fix this. We can do it very rapidly. And one of those things is by simply surrounding yourself by the right people in the department. That's something that Mr. McDonnell never did when he came in. He actually kept the same corrupt staff around him for his entire tenure, and he is still promoting the same corrupt staff. So with that, I thank you for this opportunity to be here. I look forward to the questions that come out of not only there, but whatever Mr. Zuckerman has. And thank you, by the way, for the lead-in and for your knowledge, because I understand you also work for the Sheriff's Department for quite some time. I know you didn't let anybody know that here, but thank you for your service.
Good evening, everyone. I want to thank everyone for attending tonight, and Alan and the Marina Council for putting this event together. It's going to be instrumental in this race to really educate the public on what's going on with the Sheriff's Department and how it impacts every single one of us. It doesn't matter where you live in your place that has your own police department, your own municipality, or in unincorporated areas like Marina, it all impacts everybody. And briefly, I've been on the department for 32 years myself, and I retired at the end of this month. And so right now I'm still active with the department. And I could describe myself as best as a reformer. And that's what I've done my entire career with the Sheriff's Department. I've raised eyebrows, I've raised a lot of hell on the department, but I've never looked back and I've never regretted anything I've did on the department. And I'll give you an example. 2 years on the department, I was a young deputy working in the county jail downtown LA, and inmates were allowed to smoke in the county jail. Now, imagine how many inmates in the tiny area that they're confined to and everyone's smoking at the same time. What we take for granted today, like right now, free of smoke, that was not there back in the 80s. So I put a coalition together, and we did surveys, and we ran up the flagpole, and eventually we were able to succeed in convincing the sheriff and the board of supervisors that we could ban smoking in the county jail without burning to the ground, and it worked out. And that was a major reform effort, way ahead of its time before secondhand smoke became a cause that we take for granted today. Then later on, back in 98, 99, when the Sheriff Block was failing in health and there was the election and Lee Baca became elected sheriff, there was a big dispute with certified unions that were representing deputies at the time called ALES. And they did some moves that I consider were corrupt and were against the desires of the membership. So again, I took the helm. I formed a rival organization called the Los Angeles Sheriff Professional Association, and we challenged the authority of ALES to do what they were doing because we believed it was corrupt. And ultimately, and it's taken a long time, but today, ALES is now doing the reforms that we proposed back in 1999. And this I did again. I was a deputy at the time, and there was no benefit to do this, but it was the right thing to do at the right time. Next thing, 2004. This is when Sheriff Bach was already in charge, and the Under-Sheriff Paul Tanaka, you may have heard about him in the news. I'll have to say they're both convicted felons at the time. They initiated a program that we refer to as pay to play, where basically they exchange campaign contributions for promotions within the organization. And as Bob indicated, this is part and parcel to that whole corrupt management team that basically destroyed the reputation of the organization. I identified it, I did my research, went to Gardena City Hall, I looked at their campaign records, I went to the LA County Registrar Recorder, and I started matching up the names and the contributions and realized, these things were self. And how that destroyed the morale of the organization, the integrity of the rank structure is something that we're still affected by to this very day. In fact, just 2 weeks ago, Sheriff McDonnell promoted the very last inner circle of Paul Tanaka to be within his executive team. Something that continues to be a punch in the gut of people working the line, serving us everyone in the community. I'm an educator. I've been educated my entire life. I came out of the department, I had an associate's degree, I burned the midnight oil, I earned my bachelor's degree, master's degree, and ultimately a doctorate in public administration. I taught at Cal State Long Beach for 4 years, an adjunct professor in criminal justice. I taught at the academy. I was too a drill instructor at the academy, so I had the perspective of teaching the young recruits coming in, and I also taught the executives in the incident command system, which has to do with incident management. So So I had a good perspective of providing education to sworn personnel in the department. I was born in Chicago, raised in upstate New York, and then in Puerto Rico, because my dad was born and raised in Puerto Rico. I joined the military at a young age, and I wound up in Norton Air Force Base in San Bernardino. And it's kind of funny, every single military installation that I was involved with the Air Force or the Army, National Guard, they're all been mothballed and they're gone. So I'm kind of a dinosaur in that sense. I think the only one left standing is Lackland Air Force Base, that's still working. I understand deeply what's wrong with the department, how we can fix it, and it's important that we all get involved, and part of it is educating ourselves on the whole process. And hopefully tonight we're going to achieve that. Between the two of us, we'll each have our own perspective of what's wrong and how we can fix it, and hopefully that'll give you guys a better idea when it comes time to vote who the next sheriff of LA County will be. Thank you. Well, as Sheriff of Los Angeles County, my goal is to make sure that everyone is doing what they're supposed to be doing, regardless of what their jurisdictions are. And ideally, we want to have every municipality with their own police department working to the best of the abilities and providing public safety for their residents in their jurisdictions. And a lot of it, if you see a map of our jurisdictions, they're all lining up. This looks like a big spaghetti bowl. There's so many overlapping jurisdictions in certain areas. But in terms of basic law enforcement services, we have to work across jurisdictional boundaries, because guess what? Crime doesn't obey the lines on maps. They go where they can make the best buck. So we have to work hand in hand with them. We have to make sure that all of our entities, our detective division, our deputies out in the field, they're writing their reports, they're making those preliminary investigations, they're preparing good information that can be used ultimately to catch the bad guys, get them away, and get them off your hair and out of your streets. And in an ideal world. Sometimes, and this is where, as you indicated earlier, that we have 42 cities that we provide contract law enforcement services for, and there's 88 municipalities in LA County, so we have roughly half. And ideally, that's actually a decent balance, because our presence providing law enforcement services does a good function. It keeps honest the police departments that have their own, because they're not the only game in town. And they keep us honest, because guess what? If we don't do our job right, we can lose a contract, goes to somebody else. A good example would be Santa Fe Springs. We used to contract with them through Norwalk Sheriff Station. They were unsatisfied with our services, and now they contract with the city of Whittier. And that's another model where you have regional clusters of cities doing that. But ideally, there's a healthy balance between the two, and we provide those services. And again, when things don't work out right, or incidents of disaster, civil unrest, then you see the role of sheriff in a more formal role where they'll take over larger jurisdictions, depending on the needs and mutual aid requests.
Thank you, Ellen. Great question. And I'm going to tell you, for 32 years, a little over 32 years, I wore a patch on my shoulder. And that patch says Los Angeles County. And so like when I'm driving down the freeway and a car goes by me, I'm in a patrol car, and a car goes by me at 80 miles an hour, they seem to be surprised when I would pull them over, saying, "You're not the highway patrol." I would point at my patch and say, "I'm LA County." And here's the bottom line. We have all of LA County, and yes, there are other cities that have their own independent police departments, right? But here's the fact. What happens in Los Angeles County all belongs to us. And let me explain why that is. If you talk about the jails, the way that we're letting people out early, and let's say if you're sentenced to a year, you get 10 days, that's what you serve, actually 10 days on a year. If you're sentenced to 6 months, you get like 1.5 days. So that's us. That's the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department responsible for putting them out in every city. That makes sense, right? They don't just go to our cities, they go to every city. So the Sheriff's Department has a responsibility for the entire global LA County. Now, one of the things that we do need to do is work very closely with all the agencies. Most of the agencies, when it gets to serious crime, homicides, and things like that, guess who they call? The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. Because the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department does it best. That is the way it has always been, but that is subsiding. And that's subsiding for a number of reasons that we'll talk about later on, I'm sure, in another question that may be asked. But as far as the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department is concerned, in its contract cities and its county areas, right now, based on the vacancies that we have, you're seeing here the homeless situation. You're seeing here all of the things that you feel. You feel crime is up? Well, I got to tell you, crime is up in about half of the sheriff's areas, and arrests are down. So that impacts you. So every city in Los Angeles County better pay attention to what the Los Angeles County Sheriff does. I was at a, what do you call it, town hall meeting in Hancock Park. It's not our area. It doesn't have to be our area. It's in LA County. I went to this town hall meeting, and in the town hall meeting, people were afraid. Burglaries are now occurring in Hancock Park. They're not used to that. People are walking up to their cars as they're pulling out the driveways. They're not used to that. Aaron, you talked about security. They have a security force out there. And I will tell you, I'm not going to give the company name because I'm not here to promote any companies. But I will tell you, when you're looking for a security company, which I would say all of the neighborhoods should probably look at right now, you need to be looking for a security company that has ex-law enforcement. They know what they're doing. A lot of the security companies don't have that. They don't have ex-law enforcement. So when we talk about what can they do, what can't they do, ex-law enforcement knows exactly what they can do. And I can tell you that they are detaining people in a citizen arrest type situation because LAPD and the Sheriff's Department is down so low, the response times are extended. So I would encourage all of you in this room to really pay attention to everything that we say here tonight, because it is a global issue. And when we talk about one city or one place, it doesn't work that way. It bleeds over. When criminals or burglars burglarize one place, they don't say, I'm just going to burglarize here in the Villa Marina. They say, I'm going to burglarize here, and if I get away with it there, I'm going to go down the street into another locale. So I think that's it. Did I go my time? The answer to that is yes. And I know out in the audience here, is there anybody that Mr. McDonnell sent, since I know he couldn't be here? Is there anybody that was sent here by Mr. McDonnell? No? Okay. Right now, the morale in the department is at an epic low. Deputies are afraid. They're afraid to do their job. And I know that we can call Ferguson effect, we can use all these terminologies around the United States, correct? I think all of you have heard about that. But when you have a leader who isn't leading, and in this case the Sheriff of Los Angeles County, and all of the deputies are afraid of being terminated on a daily basis and or over-disciplined, then they're going to react. So they've got this issue with the public coming at them in certain instances. Everybody heard about the 16-year-old that got shot, right? Over in Westmont, everybody heard that or has been watching the news. A very big case. You saw that they had a town hall meeting there, and you saw that the sheriff didn't show up to that either. And that town hall meeting got out of control. So when you start talking about the issues that we're talking about here tonight, there's a tremendous lack of leadership. And I'll tell you, when deputies are confident in leadership, then it's going to cause a problem with what we're talking about here today, and that's rising crime. We can blame it on the propositions, and we can get into that, and I know that they're working on that up in Sacramento. But the bottom line, here in Los Angeles County, it's a multifaceted problem. It's a problem with morale with the deputies, it's a problem with not engaging, it's a problem with no prevention, and it's a problem with not keeping people in jail. So today, truly, in Los Angeles County, it is, if you do the crime, you do no time. So people from San Bernardino, people from Ventura, and I'm talking criminals, they all know if they come into this county and they commit a crime, nothing's going to happen. That's why you see them coming here. You see them going to Hancock Park. You see them up in Santa Clarita. You see them doing the things that they've never done in areas. And then you talk about the fact that 450 used to be a grand theft. Now what is it, 950? So they know this. And I think it was in the paper the other day. Somebody has been arrested 82 times because they know the system and they always do less than $9.50, and then they get a ticket, and then they'll never show up to court, because if they don't show up to court, there is no penalty. So that's the status that we're here in LA County, and that is what needs to change.
Let's take a different path. First, we have to make several assumptions here if we want to isolate the situation based on what you're asking. Is self-initiated patrol activity gone the way of the dodo? Yes, we have AB 109, which is a prison realignment. We have Propositions 47, Propositions 57, all these things that change the character of our county jails and the state prison population, kind of push it into the county jails, and we lost that bargaining tool, that buffer zone that county jails used to be. We no longer have it. But let's set that aside, because that problem is faced by every single county, every single police agency in the state. Let's isolate to LA County and the Sheriff's Department, self-initiated patrol activity. As a watch commander of Pico Rivera Station, I can tell you that I go through on a daily basis kind of Herculean efforts to convince deputies, you know what, do your job, serve the community. I even tell them at the end of briefing, all right, go out there, make a difference, or earn your keep. You know, do something productive. And we talk about how we can arrest people that's going to impact the safety of the community. Taking care of the bad characters, identifying gang members, filling out those field interview cards. Those form the basis of leads that become ways to solve criminal homicides and stuff like that down the road. And the problem is, though, we have a sheriff who is playing gotcha with deputies' careers just to provide a body count to show that, look at all these stacked heads of deputies that I fired, therefore I must be doing my job. I'm a reformer. No, that's fake reform. That is not reform at all. All you're doing is assaulting deputies' careers. You're not solving the problem. You're not correcting the behavior, and all you end up with is an angry, bitter person who eventually gets their job back because you fire them without due process. And that happened with Long Beach City. After McDonnell left the Long Beach PD, guess what? 9 officers got their job back because they were fired unlawfully by McDonnell. He's doing that now with the Sheriff's Department at a far bigger scale. He has a constitutional policing advisor who used to be a member of the Office of Independent Review. And the Office of Independent Review was part of the Baca Tanaka corruption team, where they hid everything and there was nothing that ever happened internally. You couldn't prove anything. And that was with their seal of approval. What does McDonnell do? Hires the same people. So you have zero credibility among the line staff. So when they're out there doing their job and they got to stick their neck out, who do you want driving down those alleys? You want somebody with a window rolled up, afraid to do their job because it might cost them their career? Or do you want somebody engaged and actually empowered to do their job, looking for the bad guys and making a difference in your community? That's the person you want. That's self-initiated patrol activity, and we need to get back to that. We need to have a careful balance. Yes, we have to have accountability when deputies do the wrong thing. We also have to have support. And as sheriff, I'm going to provide that balance between accountability and support that's going to serve everyone's needs, both the department and, first of all, the community. Thank you.
All right, can you repeat the question, Alan, just so I'm sure to hit it exactly?
Sure. Do you think ICE should have a permanent presence in the LA County jails?
Yeah, my answer to that is yes. So, and here's the reason why. ICE needs to be utilized in a safe fashion, and they need to be utilized in a fashion that we can control as Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. And here's the reason why. We need to deport those that are felons that are in that population. Also MS-13, also career criminals. They need to get out. And if we don't have ICE in the jails wherein we can go ahead and hand them off in a safe manner, then that means we're releasing them into the public. Back to you. If they're released back into the public and they're placed in the homes for ICE to go get them, then what's going to happen is ICE is going to go get them. They're going to start kicking doors down and doing things like that. Now, here's the bottom line with search warrants, and I've served many of them. Although we try and be perfect, sometimes the wrong doors get kicked. And victims within the community are going to suffer if those things start happening. Here's the other issue. Do we really want ICE going and kicking doors open, a gunfight ensuing, and the neighbors next door being involved in that? I don't think so. So the safest way to go ahead and deal with this population that we no longer want here is to go ahead and let ICE be in our jails so that we can deal with it effectively and safely.
My answer is no. This is where we're going to be part ways. Okay. Reason is I believe ICE should be present only to the extent that they can remove the people that we've identified as being a threat to the community. And those are the 800 separate categories that were identified by SB 54. And those are your child predators, rapists, murderers, all the people that have been convicted of violent crimes that pose a threat to the community. To that extent, yes. And SB 54 already allows for that degree of cooperation. And that was the one flaw that it had at the very beginning when it was being written. And my beef with McDonnell was he took the time to grandstand against it, and what that did is brought a lot of concern, a lot of fear in the immigrant community. There have been 3 separate studies already that have shown that as a result of ICE Director Holman and also Trump's communications about the illegal immigrant community, that a lot of crimes, serious crimes, particularly crimes against women, such as rape, domestic violence, are being underreported. And now illegal immigrants who are in this country are afraid to come forward and report that they're a victim of a crime. So what we're doing is we're creating a new generation of victims, more victims. So we're not improving public safety, we're actually taking a step backwards. And that's why I oppose that effort. ICE has a purpose, and we want to cooperate with them to the degree that the people that we've identified, we give them to them and they're on their way. Federal rate laws at all.
Well, can I just sort of comment on the last one? I don't think we're that far off, Alex, to be honest with you. I think we're both saying the same thing, just so you all know. Because we're both saying that we want to deport felons, career criminals, and all the things associated with SB 54. What we need to do is we do need to protect the immigrants in the community. And we do that by doing exactly as I said. So I just wanted to put out there that point. Now, what was the question, Alan, please?
Sheriff McDonnell recently reported that crime was down throughout the county, to the areas handled by the county sheriff's department.
Right. So Sheriff McDonnell called his own press conference, and he called his own press conference to come out for this campaign. And he wanted everybody in LA County to know that crime was down. Crime was down across LA County. Well, the real facts were on his website. He had some 192 pages, I believe, of crime statistics on there. And after he gave that testimonial and the fact that crime was down in the county, that disappeared off of his website. And then he put a condensed version of it on the website so that you couldn't see the whole thing. In addition, for some reason, December stats don't seem to be there anywhere. Here's a fact. There are about 22 different cities. Crime is up, and it's up quite a bit. Now, when you take a look globally, it may be down 0.059%. But you have to take a look at what's going on in all of LA County. As the sheriff, you shouldn't come in and cherry pick statistics. All statistics can be manipulated to some degree. But what he should have come out and said was, you know what? We have multiple areas within our jurisdiction where crime is up. We're concerned about that, and we need to take care of that. But that's not what happened. So rather than giving a global statement, what he needs to do is get out to his contract cities. He needs to get out into the public, and he needs to talk to the people where it's real. I was in East LA getting a haircut, And we were talking about that, and somebody asked me, well, the guy got up there and said crime is down. And I said, yeah, no, that's not the case. And he says, we know the person next door got robbed last week. And we are scared here in East LA. So as you go through and as you start taking a look at the different data and the different stories that are coming out, whether it's in the Times or whether it's coming from Mr. McDonnell's lips, all I would ask you to do is vet it. Be sure that you're getting the truth. Go to my website, bobfordsheriff.com, if you want to get the truth. This is where you're going to see the real stats. We'll post 192 pages. You want to know how you're doing? Take a look at it, because you're not going to see it in the sheriff's website because it doesn't do him any favors.
There's a book the sheriff releases annually called the Year in Review, and it contains all the crime statistics of that year in question. So Sheriff McDonnell's first year in office, complete year, was the year 2015. So about 3 months into 2016, out came the 2015 Year in Review. And it highlighted changes in all the statistics in crime and all that. And then for some reason, and by the way, that 2015 Year in Review was pretty bad, because the number of crimes that jumped enormously from 2014 to 2015 was very noticeable. The Year in Review 2016 just disappeared, didn't exist. Apparently we didn't have a year 2016 according to Sheriff McDonnell. Because at the end of 2017, he's out there with a big press conference. You saw all these executives, including Tanaka's inner staff, standing behind him trying to look grim, saying that crime was down. But what happened to the year 2016? The mystery year. Well, when I was teaching in Cal State Long Beach, one of the courses I taught was statistics. So I got my hands on the actual numbers from 2015 to what he was crowing about in 2017. And the truth of the matter is, serious crime, what are considered Part 1 UCR, which is reported to the feds, is up 9% under McDonnell's watch, serious crime. That's the number, that's his report card, crime is up. And then, if you notice, politicians, chiefs of police, sheriffs, mayors, they love to hold these press conferences and pat themselves on the back when crime is down. So the message is they're responsible for it, right? Or they want to communicate it. But you notice you never see those press conferences when crime is up. All of a sudden there's some other reason to blame for it. But if it's down, oh yeah, we did it. But if it's up, oh, you know, there's always some other person to blame for it. So, since he likes to live by the sword, I have a Operation Safe Streets Bureau Gang-Related Murder Board as of February 10th, 2018.
Alex, explain what OSS, many people may
OSS is our gang investigators. They're a bureau that's in charge of gang investigations throughout the county. They interact with the state level, federal level, and also individual municipalities, and they investigate any crime that has any component, be it suspect, victim, method. So this information is as of February 10th, which is just a few days ago. And again, we're going to hoist Mr. McDonnell on his own petard, because according to him, gang-related homicides are up 71% in 2018. This is his own figures. That's the danger about this. In reality, crime is a very complex thing, and there's a lot of components that impact crime. And to isolate one and claim that that was it is kind of disingenuous. So if you're trying to be a politician and ride the crime wave when it goes down and claim that you had to do with it, you're not telling the whole truth. So my point is, as sheriff, you're going to get the whole truth, unvarnished. Thank you. Farm sufficient. Oh boy. I'll give you a simple statistic. The city of Chicago has 2.6 million residents. The jurisdiction that the sheriff department is responsible for providing has 2.6 million residents. We have an identical population that we serve as the city of Chicago. The city of Chicago has 12,500 sworn cops. They're the second largest law enforcement agency in the country. We do the same job, but we're not covered in 285 square miles. No, we got 3,087 square square miles of our own jurisdiction, we have to deal with 3,500 deputies. That should tell you the degree, the disparity. We're the least police law enforcement agency, metropolitan, in the entire country. The average for municipal law enforcement for the entire country is 2.5 cops for every 1,000 residents. If you go to urban areas and urban settings, the average goes up to 3.8. LAPD is sitting on 2.2 cops for 1,000. Take a wild stab at what the sheriff is at. 1.1. We are horrifically understaffed. The budget does not reflect the size of the problem and what we need to bring it up. I'm proposing adding 3,000 deputies to our patrol ranks, and that will not even get us to the 2.5. We'll just break the 2 mark, get closer to LAPD numbers in terms of strength of our forces in the field. So our budget is inadequate for what we need to provide public safety services for the county. Thank you.
Well, I'll echo the same sentiments, but let me add this, that when you have a budget of $3.2 billion, which is what the budget is right now, then you have a responsibility to utilize it correctly. So with that, right now, he has the money to go ahead and hire the staff that he should be hiring, but he's 1,200 deputies short. So given these statistics, it's even worse than what it should be. So if you're down 1,200 deputies and you have 285 sergeant vacancies, that's what, 1,500. You have another 200 that are relieved of duty, you're up to 1,700. We can keep adding because we have injured deputies. 1,800 people on the department. How many of those are deputies? I can't tell you because I don't have those figures, but I'm going to guess it's at least a third of those. So you probably have well over 2,000 of the deputies not even functioning. So what's that statistic? And see, this is the problem. When you have a sheriff who can't even understand that the resources you do have that are limited, you need each and every one of those. So, you know, he worked LAPD as a police chief, or not as a chief, but as an assistant chief. And there, if you don't know this, he didn't have any responsibility for hiring. They have a whole separate entity that does that for him. So when he came into this department as the most important sheriff in the nation, he had no clue that he was supposed to be hiring. You notice last year, he actually went 100 net negative on hiring. They lost over 500 deputies this year. Typically, it used to be about 350, 400, but there's an exodus. People are leaving early. They don't want anything to do with this department. They don't want to get in trouble. And so what he has done is he has compounded an issue that was already a problem. And so when you add this up, they have said and they have forecasted that they can't catch up. And these are meetings that they've had, executive meetings, where they've said, we don't believe that we will ever catch up in hiring because they don't know how to. They are so confused on the department right now, and this, by the way, is a position I held for 5 years, doing the hiring, doing the backgrounds, doing the recruitment. They are so confused that rather than calling me, they called England. And they brought in an expert from England to tell them how to do the hiring here in Los Angeles County. I will tell you, that is real confusion. So I don't know how that works, and I honestly don't know how much they're paying them. But if he had only called me, I would have fixed this problem for free. Well, I can tell you that overtime is being ordered. I don't think that's any surprise. I think I mentioned it earlier, but I know that they're ordering some deputies to work at least in the jails 9 times per month minimum overtime. You know, we have the president of the of POPA back there. That's the Peace Officers Association. He doesn't have deputies, but he has a whole lot of other stuff that he's responsible for. And thank you for being here, by the way, driving all the way down here. We really appreciate appreciate that, both Alex and I. Now, I'm going to tell you that when we start talking about overtime, deputies are tired. We've already talked about morale. But now, you take a look at this overtime, and one of the headlines, if you want to call it the front page of the ALADS Dispatcher, which is the deputies' paper that goes to all the deputies, is it basically said this: time off request denied. That was the front page. And that's what's happening. When a deputy asks for time off, unless you have maybe a nice guy like Alex who's a lieutenant at PICO, you're going to get it denied. Why? Because they're having also a monetary crisis within the department. Right now, the sheriff, even though he has a budget to keep, he's about $200 million overspent already. And he's trying to make that up. So what happens when that happens? This is what happens. That what they say is, Lieutenant, Captain, you need to cut your overtime. And when you need to cut your overtime, you have to go to different solutions on how to fill those spots. They do what's called carping. They'll pull detectives, they'll pull people from out of the area, they'll pull people into places that they don't even understand where they are sometimes. And then they become your patrol deputy. Right now, deputies cannot get the days off they need. They're missing their families, they're missing events, they can't be coaches in Little League for their kids. This is very disruptive. And then when you think about it, when you've got a deputy that's overworked, overstressed, worried about their careers, how would you feel about that deputy walking up to your window when you run a stop sign? That's not the deputy I want. I want somebody that's fully rested. I want somebody that is on their game. I want somebody that can do what they're going to do right with heart. Now, here's the other issue. When you talk about deputies getting tired, they're going to make mistakes. How many of you have been so exhausted, so tired, you've made a mistake? That's what's happening out there. And that's not fair to any of them. So when we talk about the overtime and the plethora of responsibilities that they're giving these guys out there, it all goes back to one person. It all goes back to the sheriff. It all goes back to his lack of planning. You know, when he first came in, there were only a half dozen people that he placed into recruitment and hiring and things like that. When I was there, we had 30, 35, and in the bad times we had 40 or 45 in there, minimum, to do the hiring. Right now, the plan that they have is to hire 750 a year. Well, guess what? He's right. He's never going to catch up. Because when you're losing 400 to 500 just to retirement, and then you lose them to injuries, you lose them to all sorts of other things, for a long time from here on out, we are never going to see enough deputy sheriffs out in the field with him at the helm.
Let me point to another direction. This is something that actually started under Sheriff Baca, and McDonnell will fully follow the same lead. He created a bunch of positions that were not funded by the Board of Supervisors. I mean, lots of them. He removed people from homicide bureau, detective units to supplement internal affairs investigations. The body count that I spoke of earlier, guess who does that? Internal affairs people. You're not doing other things we do, like solving, crimes and helping our solve rate. They've got so top heavy now in terms of pursuing internal investigations that they're pushing investigations to staff other control stations. You get control station A, and your chief can tell you, guess what? You're going to do an internal investigation on someone in control station B who you're familiar with and have no knowledge of, and you're still working control in station A. But now you're doing something with Station B, so what happened with Station A? Well, I guess, that's their philosophy. So they have pulled so many bodies out of normal patrol assignments that are funded positions to fund a lot of these ancillary units. Some of them are great sounding names, some of them are very, causes that are good. The activities that are done with those units can be done by the traditional units that are funded by the Board of Supervisors. So we've created this hole, a massive hole that we can't resolve. That's how we're continuously over budget and understaffed. Another category you should be aware of. In April last year, they published a title about, and they're talking about the reduction of arrests across the entire state of California. And they did a unique thing in that article. They actually compared the sheriff's department with LAPD. And what struck me was both agencies had arrested right about 100,000 people in the year 2016. I think 98,000 are almost identical. But what's remarkable about that is the sheriff did it with 3,500 deputies in control. LAPD did it with 10,000. So that tells you how hard the deputies have to work to just do the basic job. And I don't know if the sheriff was unfamiliar with that model, that, you know, if you're on trees and if people just put out a place, but no, it doesn't happen that way. You're carving in the hide, the muscle, and the bone of the organization of the decisions he's making that impacts that budget that is out of control, forcing deputies to work the overtime, and basically we're compounding the same state, getting deeper in debt, forcing them, okay, now you got to work more, you got to do more carving to make up for the money that you're ruining on the other end. So that's irresponsible budgeting, and that comes from the very top, fortunately. A prime example of how this went sideways. A good friend of mine at my station, 16 years on the job, squared away, experienced, good kid, gets assaulted, and he's a victim of domestic violence while on the job by a inebriated domestic partner. He's a victim of a crime. He gets fired for being a victim of the crime. So those 16 years that we paid, we trained him, he got outstanding evaluations, did everything he wanted, and you looked at him, you go, God bless that guy, that's the guy we want out there in control. Physically fit, he was basically looked like Superman. And really good people skills, he gets fired. Another agency looks through his entire thing, does a polygraph on him, and says, you're hired. So now he's working in another agency, and guess what? Remember, he got fired, right? They went all the way to the Civil Service Commission, but now he's in a position to sue the department for wrongful termination. And he's probably got a decent shot. Plus, we just spent all the money training him to give him to another agency out of county. That is some of the travesties of the decision we made. Yes, it costs a lot. To hire a deputy to work for, I think, contract law roughly $230,000 to $240,000 a year. To pay for a deputy salary, benefits, vehicle, liability, all. It's about $240,000, $250,000, I think, somewhere in that neighborhood. So it's an expensive item. And the amount of training that goes in at the front end is closer to, I believe, $100K. So when you lose them that easily, just for posturing, that's, plus the damage you do internally within the organization in terms of morale, loss of confidence and faith in your leadership, it's incalculable. Thank you.
Most of the deputies being terminated have 15 to 20 years on them. It's sad. I met with 32 terminated deputies, 32 of them. And I looked at their stories, I heard their stories, I heard every one of them. And they cried, I cried, my wife cried, the people at church cried when they heard the stories. Some of them are homeless. Some of them are giving their kids away to their relatives because they can't afford it anymore. If you're a fired cop, you can't get a job. Nobody will hire you. So when you go to fire a deputy sheriff, you should really be sure that that deputy sheriff needs to be fired. He doesn't. I guarantee you if I said all 32 people in this room that I talked to and all of you left and I brought Mr. McDonnell in this room, he wouldn't recognize one of them. Not one. He wouldn't even recognize their stories. And that's the sad part about what's going on today in this department. I will tell you that I think the question that you're asking is when you fire somebody that has 15 or 20 years on it, it's probably about the equivalent of $1.5 million. Is my guess when you start adding up the things that Alex was talking about. When you think about it, they have to be recruited. That takes recruitment people. They have to go through a background. That takes a lot of time. They have to go through polygraphs. They have to go through psychologicals. They have to go through medicals. They then come through the academy. They go all the way through the academy, and then they go through jail training. After they go through jail training, then they have to be sent out to patrol school. They have to go through patrol school. Then they have to go through patrol training. And then ultimately at the other end, you end up with a trained deputy sheriff who is now in fear of being fired every single day. And this is a huge issue, not only to the deputy sheriffs that are sitting there, but it needs to be a huge issue to you. And you know what I tell these deputy sheriffs, because they can't understand what's going on. This is not what they signed up for. I got an anonymous letter the other day. It was a deputy sheriff that's only been in the jails for a little over 3 years. He came on when McDonnell came in. He purposefully came on the department because the reformer was coming in. The letter read like this: I'm disgusted. I can't believe what I got hired into. This isn't reform. We're having urine thrown on us every day. We're having feces thrown on us every day, and nobody cares. We have broken locks in the jail, and nobody will fix them because they say we don't have the budget. These are the things that people don't know. You know because you had the courage and the time or whatever it was to come here tonight. But so many people don't hear these stories. There are deputies right now that have been fired for he said, she said. There are deputies right now that have been fired because they followed policy. Literally followed policy. But the sheriff's department, because they were embarrassed about the policy, didn't want to admit to the Times it's their policy, so they threw the deputies under the bus. There are deputies right now that got demoted because they refused to lie. Now let me say that again. They were asked to lie, they wouldn't lie, and so they got demoted. This doesn't make any sense anymore. You want to talk about corruption? This is probably the most corrupt this agency has ever been. You know, Alex mentioned earlier that there was a recent promotion of one of the Tanaka operatives. Yes, it was the right hand. It was his right hand. And you know what? I will tell you right here, right now, that Paul Tanaka, who's serving 6 years in prison, could run the sheriff's department from his bunk in jail right now. That's how many operatives he still has at the top of this organization, because this sheriff did not come in and clean it up. And that's a fact. So let's talk about the homeless for a minute. And all of us, we grieve for the people that are out on the streets. I mean, this is not good. I mean, nobody wants to see anybody out in the cold. Nobody wants to see anybody being harmed. We don't want to see moms out there, children. I mean, they need to be a priority. And but there are so many different classifications of the homeless. You know what? Education. How much money can you throw into education? Does it ever work? Just throwing money at something doesn't mean it's going to work. There are so many different things out there. So let me be focused on exactly what's happened with the homeless situation. I'm not going to talk about the county. I'm not going to talk about the programs they're trying to put together. I'm not going to talk about Measure H. I'm not going to talk about all these things. But what I do want to talk about is who should be leading and fixing, and that is the Sheriff of Los Angeles County. So let's just be clear about how much he felt about the homeless situation. For the first 3 years, he had one deputy assigned to the 4,100 square miles of LA County. One deputy. And then guess what happened? There's this thing called an election. He had the campaign. And what did his staff tell him? Ooh, this looks pretty bad. You only have one person assigned to the homeless. Don't you think we should do something about that? Now remember what Alex was saying about programs, putting people here, putting people there, having them in the wrong spots? Well, that meant he had to take, and what he did was he put 15 deputies in there. Where'd he take them from? He had to take them from somewhere, but he had to look good. He has to look like he's doing something about the homeless program. What else does he do? He calls meetings. Let's fix this. He calls the whole clergy, or many of the clergy. He tries to bring them in to a meeting. So that's a good move. We all agree? The churches actually do have a pretty good handle on helping the homeless. They have programs. This is right down their alley. So what does he do? He addresses them. He says, hey, we're going to talk about the homeless. And then what happens? He puts some people in front of the churches, and they begin teaching them about the homeless. They're looking around going, oh my God, we're here for a class? I thought we were here to coordinate something, that the sheriff was going to be involved with us. But what they did was they just heard a bunch of people telling them what programs were available outside the sheriff's department. The program needs to be led by the sheriff's department. And you're not going to see that, because I guarantee you, after this election, if one of us aren't the sheriff, he's going to pull those 15 bodies and go back to one, because he needs them in patrol. He knows he's suffering in patrol right now. So we can talk about internal affairs. Why did he put all those bodies into internal affairs? Because he's got 1,100 investigations going on deputies right now. 1,100. Maybe more. Maybe more. He hides the statistics from us. It's very difficult to understand. It's just like relief of duties. I think he shows somewhere around 159 relief of duties. But it's not really 159, because he's added a new category, fitness for duty. So he throws them into that category so they don't show up in the other category. So this is the manipulation that we're having throughout this whole thing. So the homeless situation, let me just close by saying this. You need leadership. You need a leader to come in. You need a leader that's going to take control of what's happening in the county resources, the state resources, the federal resources. You need somebody to stand up in the lead and say, hey, wait a minute, it's not working over here. We got to do this. Everybody's working part-time, partially, here, there. There's no organization, but who better to lead this effort than the sheriff of Los Angeles County?
I've been thinking long and hard about the homeless situation. And at Pico Rivera Station, we're kind of in the center of the homeless encampments that line the San Gabriel riverbed. So we have issues with homeless, we have dilapidated motels, we have a lot of issues with homeless in commercial dwellings, abandoned dwellings, and so it's something that we're near and dear. And like Bob said, there's a lot of different categories, so there's no one-size-fits-all solution for the homeless scenario, but I think we have to first start by recognizing it's not an LA problem, it's a national problem. That's probably the first step. And sometimes this is a law of unintended consequence, but we're so generous with what we provided to the homeless, we become an attractive magnet for the entire country. Hey, you get fair weather, you get all the benefits you need to support a homeless lifestyle, so, you know, Minnesota's not looking that good in the wintertime, so guess where you wind up? Or, we got a chunk of people that showed up after hurricanes that hit